Happy Halloween, everyone. Welcome back to Jacqs Scraps. Thank you for joining me today. So as you may know from my I've Been Tagged video that I am now following Sabrina Ann, and she came out and showed a great way to create like a spooky moon using your mixed media products, and I had to try it. It just looks like so much fun, and to use all of our products in our stash is a wonderful thing to do anytime we get to do it. So this is just some examples of how mine came out. I do have some footage that I'll add later to show you how I created them. But here I used Dilutions ink spray, crushed grape, and Distress spray stain wild honey. And then I also incorporated some Dilution slate gray because I actually found out I don't have black soot in a spray. So that's what I used here on this particular one. And then at the end I went around it with black ink. And then I sprayed it with this Dilutions white linen. So that's where you get the little speckles from. The next one, I used slate gray again, and then just the crushed grape on that one. And on this one, I sprayed Distress Spray Stain Brushed Pewter. That was the first time I got to use that. So it gave it a little bit of a sparkle. On this one, I actually started out with some green. I didn't bring that one over here. And then added some picked raspberry on there, and then used again some of the gray up in here and some purple, I think, even as well. That one looks very woodish to me. And then again, I used the brushed pewter to spray on that to make it a little shimmery. I love the effect that this has for like the moon. So here again, you'll see the picked raspberry and the crushed grape just in this one. I may have put a little bit of the gray in there. And then of course the pewter on top of that. So I tried to use the black soot that has the dauber on the top, but it didn't work very well. And then I also used wild honey on this, and it actually came out yellow, so that was interesting. And then of course, or the brush pewter over that. So those are the backgrounds that I created, and I thought what we would do is turn this one actually into a card. So the size of these came out to be 4.5 by 6 1/4. So I took a piece of yellow cardstock that I had in my stash and cut it down to 9.5 by 6.5, and it gave it a 1/4 of an inch border all the way around. So what I'm going to do now is just glue this down. Next, I'm going to use a sticker from this Happy Halloween by Echo Park paper collection, as well as use some of these DCWV Halloween die cuts. So Echo Park had this great sticker here with the tree, the cat, pumpkin, and the RIP tombstone. I'm going to use some art glitter glue to glue this down. This sticky part is not that sticky, so I wanted to just give it a little bit more. I'm going to stick that down here in this corner. Okay, and here's the die cuts that I picked out. Let's see how we want to arrange them. Hard to pick up. We could put one back. Ooh, I think I kind of like that. All right, let's get these down. Turn that one a little bit. So I think that will be the front. I was going to put the Happy Halloween on the inside. So here's what I had planned, to put the bat there, put his little feet on the sign as if he was carrying it. What is that? Okay. And then have it like that when they open it. Of course, centered better. Or do you think we should put it out here? I know. Hold on. Okay, so I found a sticker from the Spellcast collection here, so I'm going to use one of those. It says Midnight Mystery. Thought that was apropos. We'll just put that over here. I did put some black ink around it so it would blend in a little better. So that will be the front. And then let's put this on. So there we go. I think what I'm going to do is actually go around this in black as well. Okay, so after I inked up all the edges, even on the back side I did, and the inside, I think that looks so much better. I like that. Midnight Mystery. So that is a great way to make cards, easy and fun to make the background. So I hope you enjoyed that. So now what we'll do is I'll tell you how I created the backgrounds. The first thing I did is use this Mayberry Street Miniatures white tile flooring I got from Hobby Lobby for $1.49 when they had the clearances. And I cut out a 3-inch circle. And that is because they were using Yupo, because Sabrina Ann actually found out about this technique from someone else who found out from someone else. So I will link all 3 of those individuals down below. And so I went back to the blog of the originator. She said she used about a 3-inch in diameter circle. So that's what I cut out using my Cricut. And because I didn't have Yupo paper, I thought this was the next best thing because it's like a plastic, and apparently Yupo is like that as well. You can wipe the inks off of it. When you're making so many of these designs, you know, it's nice to be able to take this after using these colors, wipe it off, go on to the next one, spray, wipe it off, and go on to the next card without it being paper where it would get ruined in between. So I hope that makes sense. The next thing I did was cut up some Canson watercolor paper. This is 140 pound, and this I also then at the end tried the Tim Holtz Distress Mixed Media Heavy Stock paper and cut that down to the size that I wanted it. I did find that it dried quicker when I was using the Tim Holtz paper than when I used watercolor paper. So the next thing I'm going to do is show you some clips, and I'll probably talk over the video because it didn't record correctly. But these are all the products that I used. I kind of introduced them earlier. Some Distress Oxides, Wilted Violet, Black Soot, the regular Distress ink, Marmalade, Spice Marmalade, and Picked Raspberry. And then, of course, I had that array of sprays that I introduced already. And then I used a Tim Holtz Distress sprayer for water. So here I've just outlined the steps for you in case you need a place to come back to figure out what is the next step. And here is a box that I set up to do my spraying in, and I set up my paper, my circle, and in this example I'm using a dauber of Black Soot because that's when I realized I didn't have a spray. And the first thing that you do before you start putting the ink on is to spray your paper with some water just so that it gets a little bit damp. And here I'm just kind of daubing on the black ink. So in hindsight, I wouldn't use a dauber, and the reason is I found that I think it soaked more into the paper and it didn't stay on top of the paper where, you know, the sprays kind of pool on top of the paper a little bit, and they give you some time to play with them, if you will. So, and then drying it on top of that actually made it set more into the paper. So even when you sprayed water on it, it did not really reactivate it. And you'll see that here in a little bit. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and add our second Distress Spray ink to the paper. If you want it darker, move the ink spray closer when you're spraying it to the paper, and the further away is the lighter it is. And then of course you can spray however you want, any direction. It's purely up to you. So the next thing you do is dry the inks, and then you take your water and you spray the water in the circle to activate the colors, and then they should spring out from the outsides of the circle and move to the inner part of the circle, and then that's how you get that cool spooky design. Like I mentioned earlier, that didn't really happen in this particular design because of the dauber ink that I was using. When I was doing this, I also think that I may have used too much water or maybe too much spray ink. So, you're going to have to just give it a try and test it out and see what works best for you, I think. So because I wasn't really getting any type of reaction, I added another type of spray. That was the gray spray here. So I just moved this to the side then and kind of dried it with using my heat tool. So I actually was able to find the footage that I lost. So I'm just going to say a couple of things about this particular recording and then probably put it on fast speed so that you guys can just watch what happens. So this one, I'm actually just using straight Dilutions spray inks, and it works so much better. So that's what you'll see here. I'm kind of just repeating the same steps as I did before. So you'll see here, once I spray the water onto the paper actually curls up a little bit, even though it is watercolor paper. And it even did that with the Tim Holtz paper, but not as bad. And it's okay if it does that, because when you use the heat tool to dry it in the end, it kind of flattens itself back out. And then I also put it under some heavy books for a little while to make it even flatter. So here is another example of the same thing I just showed you, just showing you one more time with some different colors. So in this example, instead of ink sprays, I'm trying to use ink pads, and I'm using a combination of Distress Oxide inks and then Distress inks. I didn't have enough colors in the oxide, or I probably would have just used those. So I'm kind of doing this backward compared to the way Sabrina Ann did it. She put the lighter orange color down first around the circle, and then she did the black color. And as you can see, I'm doing the black and then the orange. And I'm also not putting it on as heavy as she did. So now that I have the inks down where I want them, I'm actually reapplying the circle onto the paper because I want to add some more of the purple. So I'm going to go around the circle again and just kind of stay really close to the circle and adding the ink to it. And you'll see here in a moment that it actually kind of gives it a glow and it emphasizes the actual circle. So I went back and I did that to all of the designs that I created. So that's it, everyone. I hope you enjoyed learning about this technique, and I hope you try it out yourself. It was fun to give it a try. So thanks a lot for joining me, and I'll see you next time.